Hi everybody, I'm coming to you from this beautiful parking lot because I am insanely early for my next appointment. I'm also a little bit under the weather, so enjoy my gruff manly voice. But anyway, the appointment that I am late for is a foster family orientation with the Department of Children and Family Services. And that is through LA County, through the Strait County. That's the government program. The other option for foster families is to go through an FFA, which is an independent organization that also provides foster and adoptive services in conjunction with the county. There are many pros and cons a foster family considers before they go with one or the other. It's kind of just a personal choice. I went to a DCFS orientation 3 years ago when I first got the urge to foster. And for a number of reasons, I just decided it wasn't the right time for me to foster. I still had college debt. I still had a car loan, both of which I have thankfully gotten rid of in the last 3 years. I didn't want to be in debt when I started fostering. Also, 3 years ago, neither the county nor the state would subsidize daycare for foster kids. And daycare in Los Angeles can run upwards of $1,000 a month. And the stipend you get for a child 0 to 2 years old is only $600 a month. So even if you put that $600 stipend towards daycare, you still have $400 coming out of pocket for the rest of the daycare costs. Realistically, you're not putting that whole $600 stipend towards daycare because you have to do diapers, you have to do wipes, you have to do clothes, you have to do activities, you have to do a number of things with that stipend that you just can't put it all towards daycare. So I decided, I did not want to be that much out of pocket, hundreds and hundreds of dollars to foster, because my intention right now is to just straight foster, not to adopt. And I felt like if I was helping someone else get back on their feet and get their child back, and I was doing that service to the community, I shouldn't be hit that hard financially. And I still feel that way. But one of the families in the foster family groups I'm in did say within the last 3 years, legislation has made it so that the government does subsidize daycare. I will confirm today if that is true. If not, that is kind of a huge deal breaker. When I called county, sorry, I have a cough drop in. You can probably hear it clicking around my mouth, but if I don't have a cough drop in, I start hacking up a lung. So I will see today what's changed over the last 3 years. Apparently 2017 was a big year for foster legislation in Los Angeles, or in California in general. When I called DCFS to see if I could proceed with fostering without attending another orientation, they told me no, because so much has changed that I need to go and find out everything new. One of the main changes apparently is that currently it's November 2017 and DCFS has like a 6-month wait list to get foster families started through the county, just because they have such limited resources. And so they actually recommended I went with an FFA instead of going with county if I wanted to speed up the process. But we'll see. I'm going to go to orientation today. I have an FFA orientation scheduled for this Saturday, and I might research a few more FFAs while I'm at it so that I can see if I can get any more in before the holidays kick in and they stop doing them. So yeah, I'm gonna wait in this parking lot a little bit longer because I'm still super early. I am sure I am not allowed to bring a camera or record or take pictures while I'm in there. So I'll go do the orientation and then I'll come out and check back in with you guys. Hey everyone, I'm now back home after the foster care orientation with the Department of Children and Family Services, or county. I am feeling some sort of way after that orientation, and it's not because the content was shocking. I had an interesting discussion with one of the social workers afterwards that kind of really just rubbed me the wrong way, but I will get to that in the end. Right now, I will just talk about some of the things I expressed I had interest in asking when we were back in the parking lot together. Some of the changes over the last 3 years have been pretty significant. So I mentioned in the earlier video that back then, the stipend for a child under the age of 2 was about $600 a month, and it increased as the child got older. And that was a huge concern for me because of daycare. And as a nanny, some of the families that I work for are totally cool with the tag along, but some aren't, and it's totally their choice and I respect it, and a lot of the jobs that I do would be really difficult to juggle a baby with, so it makes sense to have some sort of daycare available. So now across the board, the stipend for families in Los Angeles County is $923. That doesn't matter how old the kid is, that's for every kid, that's the base rate. And then kids with special needs, kids with behavioral issues, they do garner more of a stipend for the family because they have extra needs, so it makes sense, which is great. I'm glad that they've raised the rate because $600 will not get you very far with a small child, so $923 is much closer to the cost of childcare. However, it does not pay all of it. And depending on what center you're at, it might not pay much of it, honestly. But it is an improvement, so I will give them that. The next thing that was a big change from 3 years ago is that the social worker did say that county or state would subsidize daycare, which is big for me because I work full time. I'm single, I live by myself, I pay my own bills, and so, I mean, I'd need some sort of daycare. The red flag for me was daycare is subsidized on a child-by-child basis. So the fact that I'm a single working person doesn't automatically qualify me to have childcare subsidized for a foster child. She couldn't give me specifics, and she didn't really know specifics, and she said you have to talk to like a completely different department to find them out, which I'm gonna have to do before I start the process, or else, you know, I might be doing it for nothing. That is a big difference from 3 years ago when they just flat out said no, childcare is all on you. So I mean, that's good because that encourages more working people to become foster parents. So those are the two major changes that affect me the most. Other changes are you can now have 4 children to a bedroom, which seems like a whole heck of a lot, but because they are so wanting to play sibling sets together, it makes a lot of sense because before, I think you could only have 2 children in a room. That's a big change. Another big change is you can now have 2 infants in the same room with the caregiver. Oh, it's called resource families now. That's a big change. They're not foster parents anymore, they're resource parents. It's just a name change. Nothing else has changed. But so yeah, you can now have 2 children, 2 and under in your bedroom, which seems crazy to me. I guess if you could place with twins, it makes sense, but I mean, yeah. So those were the big changes. Everything else is pretty much the same. You have to put in an application, you have to do 12 hours worth of classes, you have to get background checked, you have to be CPR first aid trained. And some of my concerns were answered. They weren't answered very well, and I don't have a lot of guarantees for what I personally need to foster, but I'm gonna go through a couple foster family agencies and see, you know, what their deal is and if they can better assist me in my position, because I am a single working person, and it's just important that I explore those options. Now, I did say that something that the foster care worker said, or the social worker said when I left, really kind of burned my britches. At the end, I kind of stuck around to chat with the social workers about my current situation and, you know, any other questions that I had for them. And one of them just kind of like, I think she was playing devil's advocate, but it really rubbed me the wrong way because I did express that I wanted to do 2 and under, and that I have to do that because I have a 1 bedroom. It's a very spacious 1 bedroom, but it is a 1 bedroom, so I can't foster children over the age of 2 because they're not allowed to share a room with me. She said something like, it would be really hard for you to get certified because if you're living in a 1 bedroom, it looks like you're doing it for the money. Which didn't make a lot of sense to me because, like, I feel like if somebody's gonna do it for the money, it doesn't matter the size of their house. They'd probably be in a bigger house so they could have more children. But the insinuation was not lost on me, and I got really just kind of defensive, and I think she could tell because her immediate follow-up was, oh, why are you doing this? Like, what are your intentions or whatever? And my answer is that I really want to help. I want to help people get back on their feet. I want to serve my community. I'm a nanny by trade. Childcare is kind of my thing, and I have a lot of time, and it's just something I've always wanted to do. One of my friends from childhood, their grandparent fostered over 100 people in their time as foster parents, so it's always been on my radar. And she's like, oh, well, that's good, that's great, but we probably wouldn't place you with younger kids. And that really got to me too, because like 3 years ago, and even today, the need for people to foster toddlers and infants is huge in Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County, they told me, is the biggest child care foster resource county in the country. They have the most kids than anywhere else, and it was like that 3 years ago, and I guess nothing has changed. But it kind of irked me that she would say, oh, because you live in a 1 bedroom and because you primarily just want to foster, that they probably wouldn't place a young child with me. And I was like, okay, that's weird, because the last time we went through this, they said there was a dire need for just foster parents for toddlers and infants, because a lot of the adoptive parents don't want to foster them. They don't want to get attached and then have to give them back. So it was really weird that she said that to me, and she did end up like doubling back and kind of retracting her statement and saying there is a big need for foster parents of younger kids, but it'd be really hard to place them with you because you live in a 1 bedroom and eventually they're going to be older than 2, and they're going to need their own space. And it was just interesting. It was like, why are you actively discouraging someone who has a college education, has decades of childcare experience, and has the want to foster to do that when you're so desperate for foster parents? But maybe she was just playing devil's advocate. In the end, I am not discouraged from fostering, which is great. They did recommend that I go with an FFA, or anyone that really wants to speed up the process should go with an FFA, because the wait list to get started with county is up to 6 months. So I could submit my application today and then not hear anything from county for 6 months. Couldn't even get started on the classes, background checks, CPR, first aid, nothing. So they did like straight up just say, oh, you should go with an FFA because the process is a lot faster. So yeah, that was the orientation. And I guess I'll just go to the FFA one this weekend and see a couple more FFAs and see if there's one I really click with, and then decide which way to move forward.